We just want to do a quick reminder about the 50/50 raffle. The proceeds are going to go towards the 110th annexation celebration party. And that's going to be held here on May 16th. So if you haven't purchased a raffle, go ahead and do that now. Before we begin, we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If I can have everybody rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we do have a full agenda tonight. We're going to start off with our county legislator, Tony Leone. He's going to come up and say a few words about what's going on. After that, we will have Joe Betrus, our North Utica 6th Ward Councilman, come up. And then we do have some guest speakers. We have Emily from We Care Medical Transport, along with Joanne Pratt, owner of Roosters Smash Burgers. And then we also have our special guest, Mayor Michael Galime. So again, we do have a full agenda tonight.
I am normally not first because Joe Betrus is usually before me, but I have to be somewhere at 7 o'clock. My granddaughter has living stations at St. John's Church in Hampton. I was told to be there by 7, so I apologize. But as far as the county goes, things have been going okay, and a lot of things have been happening. What we've been doing a lot at the meetings, we have a new chairperson this year, Mary Pratt is our new chairwoman, and she's the first woman in Oneida County history to be chairperson of the board. And what she likes to do is recognize different school sports teams every month. So what we did this month is we recognized 7 sports teams from New Hartford who did well in their Section 3 tournaments, and a lot of them won their leagues, and it's a good thing for the community. So that's about that. We've updated some things at the 911 center, and I was appointed this month to the Fire Advisory Board of Oneida County. And what that does, we have about 4 legislators that are on the Fire Advisory Board, and we attend quarterly meetings. I think it's bi-monthly meetings up at the 911 center, and we meet with the volunteer firemen of the county, and we discuss their concerns, their needs, and we bring it back to the county legislature. If there's any questions, I can try to answer them for you or get the answer, but that's about all I have for tonight. Joe? You ready? Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming. Before I get into anything, I want to recognize a couple people here that are running for assembly. We have 2 candidates, Mike Gentile and my fellow councilperson, Joe Betar. Thank you very much for coming. Mayor, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And then I'd like everybody to, I want to make a special notice of our own Gina Carcone. She was awarded Woman of Distinction Award, Marianne Buttonshine, last week for her business. And thank you. I appreciate everything that you do. And other than that, I'm going to be short and sweet. We have a lot of people, and I'll let the mayor talk. He likes to talk, so I'll let him do most of the explaining. A couple things. You guys probably all seen, we passed the budget last week, which is great for you guys, 0% increase. I did vote against the budget for certain reasons. The main reason I voted against the budget was I was very concerned about upcoming contracts that we have. was the way I looked at it. It was a 0%. The mayor had a proposal. The Republicans, we had a proposal. The Democrats did. So I'm not going to get into it and tell you everything. I'll make it short and sweet. It's kind of like if you have a house, okay, and I use it in layman's terms, and you want to cut. You don't want to pay for landscaping. You don't want to pay for painting. You don't want to do that. So you want to nickel and dime and save. And then you want to put a $50,000 swimming pool in. My biggest concern was we received the extra aid funding from the state. We weren't going to have to take money out of our fund balance. The tax was going to be zero. And I wanted that extra money to be in the fund. So we have contracts coming up, police, fire, and I wanted that money saved there. You guys had a referendum on paving, $5 million minimum. Mayor's proposal was 6.4, was over because we received extra money, okay? And they thought we're better off saving the money, and if we were short, we could take it out of that fund to pay for the stuff. So that's basically what it is. At the end of the day, he will explain it more in detail on how he feels, but at the end of the day, you guys don't have a tax increase this year. But like I said, I'd like to see us save stuff. We're going to solve these contracts, and we're going to have to go into our fund balance, and I want to see, a bank account, money in the bank. So I'm talking in layman's terms, so you guys understand it better than the other terms. So I voted against the budget. I was all for the 0% tax increase. I wasn't in favor of the way it got there on certain things. And then the other thing, I'll be in the back if anybody wants to ask me any questions about paving. The paving schedule is out. And I'm going to just tell you one thing. I listened to the radio, and there was a guy years ago, he talked, his name is Mr. Mean, who used to talk about the history. And he talked about Utica before it was actually even a city. It was like in the 1800s. He said the biggest complaints in the 1800s back there, and you would have to laugh, taxes and paving. And here we are right now, we're go through the same thing. So as far as paving, we implemented the last couple of years a program where your streets, every street has been driven, and it's ranked, and the number 5s are the main ones getting done. I drove with the engineer the last 2 or 3 weeks. I started in January. I have a list all the time. And believe me, I get calls from all of you. My street is bad. And you know what? A lot of you are right. They are bad, but there's some that are way worse. So everybody's street can't get done. What we started doing last year in the paving too, we paved a certain amount of them, but we also have a lot of extra money for repairs. And I don't mean repairs where the DPW truck comes with full pack. I mean certain sections, instead of doing a whole big section like I'm pushing for, not bands, you could, Bern, help me. The street down from Brian's, Elmhurst is very bad, but the whole street's not bad. A section of it's bad. So hopefully we can get that on the repair list. They fill it, and it's like new, but we don't have to do the whole street. So I'm here all the time. You guys know you can call me with any questions. And like I tell you all the time, I'll always call you back. I'm just not sure. I can't give you the answer you want to hear all the time, but I'll call you, and 90% of the time I can solve your issues. Okay? Is there anybody got a question? I'll take it quick, and then we'll move on because we do have a lot of people. The other thing too. Our good friend Dick Briggs is not here tonight. He's in the hospital. He had I talked to him this morning. He had I guess I could say he had a hernia operation. He's doing pretty good. He's probably coming home tomorrow. He had a question, and I asked you about it. You can talk about it, about the electric bike company coming there. So I told him I would find that out. But other than that, we just move on, and hopefully we get some good weather, and that's all I can say. So, got any questions? No? Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, and you can always go, you can call me, or the easiest way to, since this administration took over, they use paveutica.com. You can log on to it, you can put your street in, and it shows you what level you are and, where you are. So, and again, you can always call me, I'll put it down, and I drive it, and do the best I can. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, really quickly before we get into our guest speakers, the meeting next month will be having the representatives from the Oneida Herkimer Solid Waste Authority and Mohawk Valley Water Authority. Okay, so that is next month's meeting. Tonight we have Emily from We Care Medical Transport, and she's going to come up and talk a little bit about her business.
How's it going, everyone? So my name is Emily, and I'm going to talk to you about We Care Medical Transport. So on each of your tables, there's a business card and a flyer as well, so if you want to look at them. So this is a safe, reliable, compassionate company. We do non-emergency medical transports, so to doctor's appointments, any of that aspect. We do grocery shopping if you need any of that. We have wheelchair accessible vans, so we have a lift to get wheelchairs in there and stuff as well. It's door-to-door service, so most transport companies usually take you, drop you off, and then leave you. And we don't do that. You at your door, we bring you to the van, and then we'll bring you to the appointment, and then we'll wait there. We'll wait until you're done with the appointment. You call us, we'll take you back to your house. So you can call or text the number on this flyer to create an appointment if you need it. Is there any questions we have? No, we can try. We brought out to like Syracuse and Albany and all that stuff too. So we can go. So it's private pay right now, but we are working on insurance company right now. We're working with the state to be able to get. Checks mostly, yeah.
How much notice do you need?
Probably like a week or two before.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure. The man behind you, Tony Testa, he owns the business. He can let you know about that. Yeah, so we will pick you up at your house, bring you to the doctor's office, and then we'll wait in the parking lot. Then you call or text when you're done, and we'll go in and pick you up and bring you back up to the van. Yeah, I definitely got more. I got more in the back too.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
And they can call or email with any questions that they may have?
Yeah, call or text, as well. We'll be at the back table too tonight. Back here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if anybody has any further questions, they are at the back table to answer any questions that you do have, and they also have their phone number and email listed as well. Okay. Up next, we have Javon Pratt, and he is the owner of Roosters Smash Burgers Restaurant.
Everybody hear me all right?
No, speak louder.
Tend to speak a little loud. So. Well, hello everybody, I'm Javon. I own Roosters in Utica. Can you guys just show me by your hands who's heard of us? Oh, nice. How about who has eaten there? Nice. All right. Well, yeah. So for those of you that have not been there, we are located at 51 North Genesee Street. We share a building with Cookie Q's, the creamery, the ice cream place. I've gotten a couple questions asking if we just opened again for the season. We're in fact open all year round, and we are not in relation with Cookie Q's. We're two separate businesses within the same building, so you don't have to wait to get your ice cream to come get a burger. So we've been in business. This November will make 5 years. We moved to Genesee Street. October will be 2 years we've been in that building. We came from Charlotte Street. For you guys probably are more familiar with the old Charlotte Cafe. I think it was a little before my time, but that's what people tell me. Yeah, so we're a family-run business. I own it with my wife. We have 2 children, 3 and 2 years old. We're having another child the 10th of April, Lord willing. Yeah, so I've been meaning to come to this meeting for a while. Bo, he frequents my restaurant and holds me at gunpoint a lot. He goes to get over to these meetings. So I wanted to be there for my 3rd child's birth, so I'm at this one. Yeah, so the big reason I came to this meeting because I'm kind of looking to be more involved with the community. We're kind of looking for ways to, like I said, be more involved. Currently, we sponsor like Little League teams and stuff of that nature. So yeah, I'm just kind of here hoping that if there's anything that you guys think that we can help with in terms of families that need to be fed, in terms of donations or anything like that, we'd love to be a part of anything you guys need help with. So really, thanks for having me. And if you guys have any questions. No? So, great question. Our hours are 11 to 8 o'clock, Tuesday through Saturday. We're not open on Sunday for religious reasons for myself. And then Monday is just kind of an extra day for my employees. Yeah, we have online. You can order online at uticasmashburgers.com. Unfortunately, we don't have any vegan burgers. So we just sell burgers. Somebody asked me about it earlier. Yeah, and I guess the premise behind that is we're just trying to focus on a thing and do it to the best of our ability. And unfortunately, you can't be.
So first question for you, do you prefer as a side of your burgers, chicken nuggets or fries?
It depends the day of the week. Yeah. Definitely French fries.
All right.
Yeah.
You kind of think chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
Giant bag.
Yeah, and I also want to add that we shop local as much as we can. You know, we go to True Produce for all of our produce. We get our meat grain fresh from cans at Shinatris. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. And then we get our buns from Salvatore's in New Hartford. Sammy doesn't own it anymore, but it's still the same product. And yeah.
I was in last week and got a Rubel. Is that a temporary thing?
That was a special, but it was going so well, we're going to do it again. So.
Good.
Yeah,
Bring
you
your
do that every
friends.
week, by the way.
Yeah. Well.
What did you try to do?
Sometimes they're my ideas, sometimes they're employees. I'm always open to ideas as well. We did a thing where we asked the public to kind of comment on a special. I'll always take requests, but keep in mind, it's a business as well. I can't be grinding up filet mignon and with a demi-glaze, and, porter stout. So, yeah, we're definitely open to recommendations. It gets a little, tiring having to come up with them all the time. So if you guys ever want to give us recommendations, my email is RoostersUtica@gmail.com. And I'll be handing out my business cards, and on the opposite side of it, it says "Be My Guest," so it's good for 1 free burger. And then my email's in the back. So if you guys have any other questions or just any ways that you think I can help out the community of North Utica, please send me an email.
All right, up next we have Mayor Mike Galime.
Good evening. How's everyone doing? I don't have a formal presentation, although I do have the budget presentation I did give when I presented the budget. I have some other odds and ends, but mostly I just have my mind and everything I just went through in the budget process. I think Bo has a bunch of questions. Oh, we got a math. Let's do this. 50-50. $38. It's a lot of burgers. Just saying. 513-183. 513-183.
Three.
You got something?
Yeah, we got it.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. Beautiful. So I'm open to any questions, budgetary or not. I do want to kick it off with what Joe Betrus had mentioned about e-bliss. Show of hands, who has seen the news about e-bliss? It's the electric bike manufacturer. Not a lot. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I got about 3 people. All right, so about a year and a half ago, an electric bike manufacturer was interested in locating their manufacturing here. They currently sell their bikes out of Prozac Collision, I think is the name, 233. And the bikes are really great, actually. So we have a loaner. We let City Hall employees take it to lunch. We bank in it. We actually have done some codes work on it. The fire department actually, when they responded to that crazy accident where the runner was hit by the deer this year, the first response to that runner were it was two EMS workers with the fire department on the e-bliss bikes. So they're actually really cool vehicles. So they did locate the building in Harbor Point. It's not on the harbor, but it's back where the old paper mill was, where Feldman Manufacturing was. And the current state is they have me on a podcast, actually promoting it. And their plan is they're going to be manufacturing bikes in Utica this year, so around the August timeframe. They currently manufacture out of Austin, Texas. And when they came to visit the area, they were just thinking about shipping all the parts in. So we took them to MVCC, and we showed them a lot of the manufacturing houses that are still alive and well here, like Utica Mills, makes all the emblems for Cadillac and Snap-on and Harley, for example. We showed them a lot of the different manufacturers that do plastic blow mold, which I don't know if any of you are aware. It's oh my gosh, what am I? They're in New York Mills. They make the sprayers. Fountainhead Group. Right. If you go to Lowe's and you buy a DeWalt garden sprayer, that's made here in New York Mills. So there's a whole host of manufacturers we still have. So they went from let's box build the bikes here. They built up a 2-year plan to basically try to transition not only their manufacturing here, but then also start to build the frames with their welding capabilities and all that stuff. So it's a really cool thing. It is still alive and well. That's what's going on with that. Paving. I want to talk about the paving list. Joe mentioned paveutica.com. A couple of years ago, we did do that complete rating system in the roads. And that first year, we kind of just started picking off 5s, the worst roads. There's another very useful thing about that rating system, which we're going to start doing every single year. It's re-rated, so it's always updated, is whether you're talking to your council person, whether it's you, whether it's me, when there is an issue with a road and people want to issue repair, pothole, or full paving requests, we can now go to that rating system and say, hey, this is rated a 5, this is rated a 4, and we can do that personal assessment with the engineers and figure out how to verify that and use that as a base. Doesn't mean we're only using that, right? Councilman Bitar, for example, had a road that he had reported just recently. It was a 3. Right, so we went out there and said, okay, is this not rated right? what's actually going on. We actually assessed it, and we said, okay, this is a 3 because there's a problem here, there's a problem here. This can be added to the repairs list. The whole point is a couple of years ago, we shifted all of our paving to a very objective-based system so that over time, the plan is if we actually spend the money on the worst roads and we time that work with Mohawk Valley Water Authority. I actually just had another coordination meeting this morning with them for their road cuts, or we work more with National Grid, which we are doing. Over time, we'll now have a much better road infrastructure. It won't happen overnight, but we wanted to completely restart. We're thinking of paving. We did that 2 years ago, and it's going fairly well. I live on a road with a lot of boreholes and cuts in it, so I wake up every day, drive up and down a road where I can say, like, this could be paved, but then I have to, drive down to City Hall and hit a bunch of roads that are way worse than mine. So I completely understand the want to always have the roads completely new, but I'm hoping that as we use an objective-based engineering assessment and still take input and merge that into the data we use to pave, we'll all spend our money better and we can actually get more done for how much we spend. So budget-wise, I guess I'm just going to open it up for questions. The state of the budget right now is the Common Council passed it last week, which kicks it off into the review of all the amendments. I spent all weekend reviewing those amendments. They did provide probably an hour and a half ago, some vetoes to those amendments. I did approve the one, for example, that set the tax levy to the 0% rate increase. It's clear. But similar to what Councilman Betrus was talking about, we all had different ways to get there. My vetoes with very detailed messaging or some of that, and my expectation is most, if not all of those, might be overridden by the council on Wednesday. That's all right. This is the third budget year I've had to participate in creating the budget for and participating in the budget process. And, this is probably the most healthy budget I've seen as mayor, in part because we did bring in that occupancy tax. We got that done. Right? And that was approved once by the state. It was approved by the council. We got that into actual action this January. We also had a lot of work done on valuations. So in years past, we were very lax on building permits. We were very lax on tracking not-for-profits, tracking exemptions when they expired, and we were not keeping our valuations up to date. This budget year, we did increase purely just due diligence to this and following up on paperwork that was aging out. We increased the valuation by $15 million this year. So our levy, without even having a tax increase, still went up about $500 million. So that's a good thing. And then the last really big influx of funds was that temporary municipal assistance, AIM funding. It's an increase to AIM funding. It's something I've been integral in fighting for since day one, becoming mayor, rejoining NICOM, this New York Conference of Mayors. This year I did lead a team of mayors through the NICOM Finance Committee and advocating that in Albany. And this year we did obtain an increase of $3.8 million in that temporary municipal assistance. It's very much a thank you, but we also have work to do because one, it's temporary, and two, that $3.8 million of additional funding almost catches us up for just inflation between 2011 and now. For example, that was increased appropriately. The state budget, which this is literally a drop in the bucket to the state budget, the state would have to appropriate an additional $150 million to the entire statewide AIM funding package. So we got halfway there, which is great. And that $3.8 million really did allow us to reduce our fund balance draws exponentially this year. It allowed us to provide this year of, we proposed a 2.9% tax increase. Granted, it was $50 a year, probably for each one of you, given the average home value in North Utica. But at the same time, if you propose a 2.9 increase, even if it's only $50, for example, and then the state shows up and says, hey, guess what, that $3.8 million you were advocating for, you can have that this year. It was right after I passed the budget to the council. So I sent out a recommendation and said, let's hold the taxes this year. Let's reduce those fund balance draws so our bank account, if you will, stays way more healthy than it would have. And let's do a few other things, like build up the contingency of contracts, etc. Council had some other ideas to do with that, and they did their work. And Wednesday, we'll know the final result. Joe, it's Wednesday, right, the meeting? Yeah, so as of Wednesday, we'll have the final result on the city's budget. So any questions at all? I mean, you can ask me whatever you'd like about the budget. And thank you, by the way.
Not about the budget, but go back to when you talked about the bicycles.
Yes.
In the article that they had, it also included $480,000 towards the new promenade, or $1.25 million towards new apartments and commercial space. It's currently under construction.
That is not part of that. Let me see what you're talking about there. Because I'm trying to think. That might have been a joint announcement. I know what these are. So the $480,000 towards a new promenade, this announcement was put together in part by ESD. This wasn't like my announcement that I wrote here. So they were citing things that had already happened. So the $480,000 they were referencing is in part what built the current walk, that's the promenade around the harbor. The $1.25 million in new apartments and commercial space, I want to say that is the ground improvement work that is going on next to the 1933 building, because I know that was $1.2 million, and this isn't my press release, so I'm just going off memory here. Nor was this constructed in the city at all. What's going on there is it was a discretionary funding allotment from Marion Buttenshon for ground improvement work next to the 1933 building. That's the big one with all the glass windows for the harbor. What's planned there but could not be done because a private developer wasn't going to purchase the land unless they could build on it. Marion Buttenshon funded the ground improvement work to prepare that for a foundation, which will effectively be 50 apartments, 3 to 4 restaurants, and then an entire deck space that'll overlook the harbor. And that'll be complete with more parking, etc. But harbor-wise, though, if I could just throw a couple more things out there. This spring, separate from all that, and these are New York State NYPA Canal Authority grants that we had applied for, we will be installing a boat launch. And while you can't get from the harbor to the canal, you still will be able to launch fishing boats and go fishing. I don't know if anyone follows the pictures coming off the harbor, but people are pulling out 2 and 3 foot pikes, ice fishing back there. It's like unreal. And once the boat launch is done, I have a deal made with the prior mayor of Syracuse, who's now the director of canals. We're going to be water skiing on the harbor this August after that's built. And that's a real thing, actually. So Ben Walsh is pumped about that. But then also we're executing the grants that will rejuvenate the loop around the harbor. It's like a walking trail all the way around that. And then we're also doing the pre-construction work and part of the construction for a loop harbor bridge. Once that's done, that'll be a complete loop for biking, hiking, walking, running. And actually, this is something that Javon Pratt would be into. The Utica Roosters wanted to bring an actual run down there as well once that's done. So we're doing quite a bit of work that's ongoing. And it just helps that every time we do something like that, we tend to get another business. Any other questions about that in particular? All right, what's next?
About Johnson, Leone, that was kind of put on hold. We were supposed to have Laura Cohen last year speaking here at one of our meetings.
The 17 acres. Okay, so the 17 acres is actually owned by, it's a matter of public record, so I'll say it, Dan LeConte and that's the father of who used to own Encore. Right now, the redevelopment of that land is kind of impeded by the fact that the thruway has now said that you can't have any ingress or egress within 100 feet of the thruway stop. So that's part of why all of that exit 31 work is going on. We do have some city-owned land on Leland Ave. So I did start an investigatory process along the edge and some other partners to see if we can make a little Leland Ave spur to get down to that land. But we're actively assisting with pitching that land, even though it's not owned by the city. We've had some retail, as much as data center is kind of a negative thing right now out there in the airwaves. We did have a data center that was interested, so we had to do a feasibility study with the National Grid to see how much power we could down there, for example. But effectively, that's 17 acres of clean green land. And I really see that as a hidden gem in North Utica. I can see anything from outlet malls to condominiums. It's sandwiched right between the canal and the Mohawk. It's a beautiful piece of land. And I'm just happy we got all those trailers off of it once I got in there, which was a good thing. But it's for sale. I mean, it's actively being marketed. So. Any other questions with it?
And when you're doing the budget, you find stuff for positions, positions don't get filled. What happens to the funding? Does that just get pushed aside to another department, or how does that work?
So the budgets that I've been managing, we've been upside down. So we, in every single budget, as it was passed by the council, have appropriated. So I had to propose an appropriation of fund balance to balance our budgets in every single budget that I presented. The council actually, to bring down the tax rate that was proposed each year, except for this year actually, because we had that additional one. So those first 2 years increased the fund balance draw to bring that tax rate down, among other things. So what we've been doing very actively is money that we absolutely don't need stays in that account, and then we just don't draw it from a fund balance. So perfect example, once fiscal year 25 was audited and all the numbers were closed, we had a planned, I might be off by like, $100,000 here. We had a planned fund balance draw of $2.5 million. When the year closed, we ended up only drawing from that fund balance $880,000. So what that means is to balance the budget, we had to create a plan that utilized $2.5 million. We worked very hard. Some of it was luck, some of it was active work, where people were healthier, so bills didn't come in that would have come in. But then other things, we didn't do work. We didn't fill positions, for example, and then that money, if it's there, ends up being pulled up, and it goes. People say it goes back in the fund balance, but really it just doesn't get taken out, basically. So that's what we do. Next question. All right. I like it.
I was reading the Daily Sentinel that they bid for the city's website.
Yes. Yes. So it's an RFP, request for proposal. So we're doing two things, actually. We went through a process last year to select a technology company to completely replace, if you will, the back end of our website. So we'll have the infrastructure to do most, if not all, of our permitting and forms online, even payments. So dog license, key fob, building permit, fence permit. You can actually, you'll be able to, once this website's out, start doing all that. So that's a piece of it. The other side of it is a complete redesign of the city website, so that it's much more representative. The county did a good job with theirs. If you look at the county's new website, it's brand new, and it's fully ADA compliant, which you don't think of that with websites, but it's language compliant, ADA compliant, if you're colorblind, everything above, it'll actually function. But the update is we are down to going between 4 different developers to actually build the website right now. Once we select one, it's probably going to be a 5 to 6 month process, but you'll see a total stand up of it. Some of the things that I wanted to see changed was I really, in the request for proposal, I want to see people to be able to subscribe to agendas for things. So if you're interested in planning board applications or scenic and historic or whatever it may be, you'll be able to subscribe to that. You'll be notified of those agendas. Other things that are just going to be very helpful on the website is a complete revamp of all the information, departments, the contacts, but then anything you'll be able to go in, anything you would normally have to go into City Hall for, you'll be able to do through the website. We were able to find that funding. It was around $200,000. We did an audit of CDBG funds, the Community Development Block Grant funding. Now, what you typically don't see is COVID happen, right? During COVID, there was other monies other than the ARPA monies that were all the hot topic for years. There were monies that were routed through the Community Development Block Grant monies so that people who would have been negatively impacted in socioeconomically depressed neighborhoods would also receive a different boost. So there was about $800,000 left in those accounts when I had them audit the accounts. And what I was told was you have to spend that money in the CDBG districts, which, believe it or not, a lot of times when we talk about community development block grant money, if you look at where the district ends, it's right below the thruway. So nothing in North Utica can ever be helped with CDBG, but the website, because the percentage of people that might go to a website were in that CDBG area, we were able to use that money for that. The rest of the money is how we are, I couldn't have done anything with it, but there's 3 parks in West Utica that have not been touched in years. One is Addison Miller, then there's Herd Playground, and then there's Lincoln Ave Playground. So this summer we're rebuilding all those parks. And we also got that State Historic Preservation grant to rebuild Pixley. So we're going nuts on all the parks in West Utica. And one of the amendments I did sign, Councilman Betrus, is that when we got that additional $3.8 million, we put a little bit more money in the playground repairs because we want to make sure we take care of the playgrounds in North Utica too, even though CDBG money can't be applied. And then there's one other thing that I targeted that money for, which is garbage cans. Not only do we need more garbage cans in different places, we want to see garbage cans that actually have the appropriate covers on them. So a lot of the excuse from the city has always been, hey, we can't put garbage cans out because people put their pizza boxes in it, empty bags that they don't want to put in blue bags and all that stuff. So we're actually looking to purchase some new garbage cans. One, we need them at the harbor. We don't even have them. Right? And also throughout the city, we're going to reorganize where the current ones are. We're going to bring in some new garbage infrastructure. That's actually my next target for the reserve funding we can use out of solid waste. That's how we bought those pre-owned plows instead of bonding for them. I'm looking for one of those little mini garbage trucks in the parks so we can collect the garbage from our garbage much more efficiently. All right, I'm going to go over to Mr. Carcone here, but I'll have to come back because I think you've got a whole list, right? Yeah. Cannot be spent in North Utica. Can't be. So it's the federal government, and it's the federal government. It's based on it's HUD guidelines, and the federal government designates where community development block grant funding can be applied due to census tract data on basically income, and that's right. But we're trying to balance that, right? That's the whole point. Yeah. Well, so what I've been attempting to do is utilize the CDBG funds in ways that free up funding so that we'll have more dollars to spend in the neighborhoods. That was a big question about the harbor. We spent CDBG money for, I can't remember how many years at Hotel Utica. And multiple times that 1933 building is plagued by the fact that the floor is 4 feet below the floodplain. No one wants to develop it until that floor is raised by not them, basically, because that's a sin of the past. It's the canals building that they gave to the city, and now it needs roughly $3 million of work to raise the floor before anyone can do anything with that. Very similar to Hotel Utica, but in a little better way, because it wasn't just bailing them out. I said, hey, is this a way we can impart use CDBG for that? Because that would clearly be a community development type of activity, right? That would benefit the community and the surrounding areas, but we couldn't. The line was right there, just before the harbor. So exactly. All right, Ron.
Paving sheet.
Yes.
Came out at the meeting next week. I noticed Leland Ave, and over on the left-hand side, it says state. Is the state of New York paying for the repaving?
Unfortunately, they're not. We tried to make them pay for that. Effectively, that's going to be your detour for probably 18 months to, actually, Mike Gentile probably has the answer on this, which is, what's 18 months? Yeah. So Leland Ave is going to be a detour for every single one of us, and I say us because a lot of my family still lives in North Utica, every day. So you're going to hit North Jenny and use Leland Ave. The state, we're going to pave that. We're going to fix that. So we are. We're using that to leverage the state into giving us more CHIPS funding. We tried to get it funded by them, and they were just like, no, it's not going to happen. So, but we are.
I also brought up at a common council meeting the idea, because the city of Utica has no county roads, but all the towns and villages throughout the county have roads that the county maintains.
Correct.
Why can't Leland Ave be issued as a county road, because it leads to the Herkimer, Oneida County solid waste place, and they have the heaviest traffic of all that's chewing that road all the time.
So I brought the funding. So $6.4 million doesn't come out of the city budget, right? $2 million of it we borrow, which we used to habitually borrow $2.5 million a year just by design ever since that referendum passed for $5 million. Last year and this year, the budget director and I went down to council with a plan to actually increase the amount of paving we've been doing because we have CHIPS funding, and did some work to figure out how other funding could be used on our roads, which is exactly what I'm going to answer with. And we've been borrowing $2 million to try and reduce our reliance on debt service with the paving. So CHIPS funding is the one everyone talks about. That's the main, they just give you the money. But then there's extreme winter recovery. This year, if the budget passes as is, sometimes they up this actually. What they did last year, we're receiving $300,000. So the extreme winter recovery, we usually target towards more of the repairs, the fast recovery stuff. And there's Pave New York, that's $453,000. Now, the one I'm going to mention in reference to what you're saying is the state touring road. Previously, it was assumed that we could only use that money on like Route 5 or Herkimer Road or Genesee Street, because there were those main 5, 8, 12 thoroughfares cutting through Utica. Last year, I questioned that and had the engineers dig into that. As it turns out, there's a vast majority of our roads, Leland Ave is one of them, where that state touring money can be applied. That's part of the reason I was able to increase the dollar amount of paving 2 years ago. Basically looked at all of our funding sources and said, are we using this money appropriately, and are we getting the most out of these funding sources? Because they would only do, say, $300,000-$400,000 a year in state touring money. They were like, hey, we don't have any more roads to do. So the money was laying there, and sometimes it would expire over time. So I went through all the documentation and the legislation, and we found out we could use it all every year. So while it's aggravating, and I'm not going to stop fighting, because it doesn't mean they won't give us another funding source to do something else in place of Leland, which is what I'm shooting for now. But the reality is that state touring money is technically applied to Leland. So they would argue that they are doing that, similar to New Hartford. But I gotta say though, I get calls all the time. How come New Hartford's doing Burstone Road? How come this township is doing this road? And I have to explain, I'm like, this sounds great, and it looks like they are, but they're actually not doing it. It's the state and the county. It's just happening in their township. Sorry. When Empire State Development met with them, like we connected them with Empire State Development. They do those projections like, oh, over the course of 4 years, there's gonna be 100 jobs, and if those 100 jobs exist, they're gonna get tax credits up to 500 grand or whatever it may be. The reality is, in the near term, they're looking at 20 jobs, which is pretty good. Okay. And then now that we've introduced them to all the other manufacturing, we just have to get to the point because everything is 90% done until it's 100%, right? Once they start manufacturing that first bike in Utica this year, I'll feel better about talking about it because until that happens, I never trust that it will, even if it's a sure thing, right? But once that happens, then basically what they said they want to do, once I showed them all these different companies, they said, we want to literally put a bike disassembled on the wall and work through MV, work through the Chamber of Commerce, work through all of the manufacturing houses we have cataloged in Utica that Paul Buckley's been showcasing on the city limits thing. And they want to have a manufacturers conference and say, if you could point at the part and build it, give us your quote because we want to build it locally. So I'm really hoping that first bike gets built in this August because if that happens, that means they're here. And the next step is, okay, first they're U.S. made, which means they assemble. Then they could be, U.S. I can't remember the order. There's U.S. made, U.S. built, U.S. manufactured. There's all the different levels, right? They want to get to the point where they're building the frame here, because if they're building the frame here, they can avoid all tariffs. So it's actually pretty cool. Joe, Councilman, sorry. Yeah. All right, so show of hands for people who know what Councilman Betrus is talking about. Okay, so we had a Homeland Security test done on the building. I didn't schedule the test, they just do it, and they show up and tell you what the results were. It's pretty involved. So this was about 1.5 years, probably 2 years ago at this point, which we've already enhanced our security protocols and made changes in the meantime. So it's not like we're just sitting ducks. But effectively, Homeland Security showed up, hung out for a day, and figured out all different ways to get in the building. Whether it was saying they're going to go up to Mohawk Valley Water Authority or following someone in a back door. I used to do this type of work for Rome Labs, so to me it's all common sense, like how these things would happen. A lot of people don't realize it. So effectively, the number one way they got in the building was just saying they were going to codes. From there, they got in the elevator, hung out until someone badged them into a secure area. Then they hung out in a secure area. They went down into the garage, which is how all the employees get in, hung out in the corner. They got on the roof, hung out on some lawn chairs. All throughout this, they took photos of us. And effectively what they did was say, hey, by the way, all these photos could have been snipers. All right. I did a huge training for all City Hall and all Mohawk Valley Water Authority, and we started enforcing the badges, among other things, the best we could. But ultimately, they said we really need a vestibule that has same kind of access control. So one of the first designs was maybe to have something about this tall, so the employees can badge in, and then there's an access door if you're buzzed in. But to actually do that in the foyer of City Hall, structurally, we couldn't do it. So, is the mic on? All right, so now basically we're going to have, I think it's about probably a 9 or 10 foot, divider, which is going to be nice to be oak. It's going to match the rest of the building, but it's going to have a glass front, and you're just going to walk up just like you do with the security guard. And you're going to say, hey, I'm here to pay my taxes. And instead of just walking in, you're going to get a badge like you do with the county building, and it's going to say where you're supposed to be and have your picture on it. And when you check in, once we have it all up and running, believe it or not, the county building, when they take your license, they actually do a quick background check. So if you're on a known list, they don't let you in. The other thing is it'll allow for access control at the council meetings where they can set that detector if they need to. But the key is what we're putting together will create a situation where we don't have to have an armed officer there anymore, which takes an officer off the street after this. That's staffed out of the uniform division. It costs quite a bit. Sometimes it's filled with overtime. We're RFPing out, moving for the state office building does for a security company to be there. So it'll be Allied or LB or what typical you see. And you'll still be able to walk right in, pay your taxes, walk right in, and go get your dog permit or your marriage license or anything you need to do, or go up to see codes. The only difference is maybe it's going to add 30 seconds to you just checking in so that you can write your name down and then carry on. And then we'll have better access control. So that's why we're doing it, if you hadn't heard about it. It was pretty, I feel like sometimes, Councilman Betrus, when we're like within that inner circle of chaos, which is, you know, the inner workings of government, it's crazy how the public doesn't hear about stuff. Huh? Okay. But you might see some changes there. But it's going to be nice, it's going to be pretty, it's going to match the building, and it's actually going to create a much nicer waiting area too. So we're going to have benches and chairs and all that stuff. So. Okay. All right, next question.
Going to City Hall at times can be challenging to find space.
Okay.
It was weeks ago. I wasn't aware that there was a time when it was going to be difficult, but the actually packed parking. And I went to City Hall, and I said something to the police officer there. Oh, yes, he said, other people will complain too. It's the church, they all park there, the Islamic Bosnian church, and the church across the street. It only happens, I guess, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, but it seems like there could be some kind of simple solution to keep that from happening. So that if you want to go to City Hall, you can park.
So one of those solutions would be the parking authority application we're trying to roll out, because then that would allow us to actually monitor the parking like all the other municipalities do. The other solution, we do have two council people here, would be maybe getting some City Hall only signs up, maybe, because those are public lots. We allow them to be public lots, right? The lot above Hannah Park is a public lot. That's, you're free to park, but that's a good point, and I hear you. Was it?
I was ready to check out, and all of a sudden, coming down from the church and going to the cars in the city lot. It wasn't just the officer speaking.
Was it Friday around 1 o'clock?
Yes.
Yes. So that absolutely was the mosque. It does happen. It's like a 45-minute service once a week at Friday at 1 o'clock, actually. And there's so many, there's a lot of people that come down, but it's for about an hour. I will talk to the evening because they always try to be very accommodating about that stuff. So while I do think we should probably maybe legislate some City Hall only spots there, I'll just have a conversation with them as well. All right, you're welcome. Who's doing it? All right, another question? All right.
Does the city keep a database or anything, like all the pilot programs they've handed out, or tax breaks they've given out to the city businesses?
Yes, sure.
They keep track of like when they end, and do they find out if they meet their obligations? Cut them off if they don't? How does that work?
So I try to be tactful about how I discuss changes I make, because it kind of ruffles feathers, like, you're saying, I voted for maybe I wasn't doing it, but I wouldn't have run for mayor if there weren't changes to be made. We do keep a database that is maintained by the Industrial Development Agency. It's a combination of the IDA, the assessor's office, the controller's office is heavily involved in that. And every year we do have to go through those. And in part, that increase in the valuation that I talked about was that we started going through when I appointed the new interim assessor. I said, listen, this is something I wanted to keep track of. I need you to go through all this. So he spent his first month really going through all the pilots, all the exemptions, all the not-for-profits, all the buildings that were not on the tax rolls for any reason, and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And we did find a couple, even a church that was not paying taxes on a piece of property, which is now going to be changed. CNY cardiology, believe it or not, when I took office, was not on the tax rolls. It was listed as wholly exempt, even though it was private practice. And when the hospital was built, whether you're for the hospital downtown or not, the idea was all the medical office buildings were going to be taxable, right? So we did work with them as much as they were kind of bummed that they had to pay taxes there. But the pilots, you see them listed in the budget. So if you go to the budget, for example, under the tax information where it shows the tax levy, you'll see all of these other real property tax items. And also that's when you see, so like Colonial Square, for example, that's listed as a pilot. They're still paying $101,000 a year. It's a payment in lieu of taxes. It doesn't mean they're not paying. So quite a bit of them are actually paying a lot. It's just structured so over a certain period of time, they know what they're going to pay on what for 10 years. That way they can go to a bank and get financing for something, and their costs are structured. But they're all, this is the result of that database. It's in the budget every year. Some of them, it's funny, they list them wrong for years. I went after IRI Bank, I felt bad. I was council president. They're like, no, we're paying full value. They were still listed as a pilot. They were paying full value. They never did the paperwork to take them off. They removed them. But that does make a difference because then it flows through the IDEA instead of coming right to the city. But yeah, they're all in there. You can see every single one of them. Anything else?
Yeah, years ago, back in the 70s, we used to have summer days.
Yes.
Now, is it possible that someday we could maybe utilize the Harbor Point to have something summer days?
So twice last year, we did something very similar at the grand opening and then when we did the symphony there. Those were basically test pilot events to make sure we could work it, do all the transportation, make sure we don't disrupt businesses in and around the harbor, and we just aid, the businesses. And it was quite successful. So I don't know that it'll be exactly like a good old summertime for two reasons. One, I want to do more frequent things at the harbor, maybe on a once a month type of basis once we get things going. But you got to remember, there's still a lot of construction going on in there, so the reason nothing's really been announced yet this summer is we're trying to work with all the different people building hotels, townhouses, and mixed-use buildings and say, hey, when is everything staged out so we can plan that out? But we fully anticipate that, especially when the boat launch opens. Once the boat launch is open, the next step, I want to see the docks get out there. Because, again, you won't be able to have your 22-foot boat under the canal. There's no reason you can't have your fishing boat out there, your lund, and you're out there, with a cooler fishing all day. So we want to get the docks going for that. And definitely have events, and that's, I'd like to see them more frequently, rather than a giant thing that kind of comes in, lasts 5-6 years, and then kind of fizzles out. I want to establish the harbor as a very regular entertainment zone for not only the city of Utica, but for North Utica. I've got a crazy question. This is going to make waves. It's out of control. What would North Utica, how would you feel? America 250, right? I have been having some preliminary discussions about moving the fireworks. One of the places I'd like to see the fireworks potentially moved, if not once, but we'll see how it goes, is the harbor. Show of hands, who thinks that's a good idea? right? Now you're North Uticans, so you're probably like, yeah, let's do it. I don't know about on the water, but I would be picturing it somewhere between the water and downtown, so that no matter where you are within the radius of the city, you could see it. I don't know about the mechanics right now. Again, we're looking into construction schedules, but I just wanted to throw that out there because that is something I'm considering because we've got that facility now, and it's going to be pretty cool. So I just want to throw that out there as a potential. I've always wanted to move them back to the Parkway myself, but this is such a good opportunity. Right, but only so many people would be able to. So I'm just literally throwing it out there, almost like a soapbox type of thing, because how I would, if it would be more like an old school fireworks display where instead of having to go to one captive space, yes, if you're at the harbor, you could watch them, or you can make dinner reservations at the 45 restaurants within the 5-mile radius here, and then walk out after your dinner, watch the fireworks, or you could see them from Nexus, you could see them from up here. I feel like it might. It's been a while where they have been, and I'm trying to, actually experiment with the fact of how that would work. Harbor Grand Opening was a good test for that, but I just wanted to, if the answer was like, oh my God, we don't want that here, what kind of band might be an option? So they just moved it years ago. I think that was under the Rafaro administration. They just decided to move it down. Actually, it's funny. I played. The first time they did it, my dad's band played it as the entertainment holiday, and I was playing saxophone with him. So we did the first one down there. They wanted to change it up, and instead of having it at the Parkway, they wanted to move it to the big park there so they could kind of do more of a party. I look at those events, though, they're very long. I want to shorten it up, get it closer to when the fireworks would happen, something more manageable, something more exciting, and something that would also support a lot of the other mixed-use businesses, rather than just kind of bottling it up. So, when I inquired about moving it back, that was a concern. To be honest with you, I think part of it was I know I witnessed it. So one of the last years I was there, I watched a cop get run over. The crowd control was pretty crazy down there. Granted, I mean, how many years? 40 years they had fireworks there. It wasn't a problem, but it did get a little out of hand. So I think they just decided to kind of just shake it up and change course. So, so come on. I thought I was going to do some crazy budget questions. Let's go here.
You left out Mr. Briggs is not.
I know, right? Right, exactly. Anything else, Bo? Yeah. So when it's a total loss, it's rare we get the money, but yes, that does go on the actual tax lien. And actually, most of the demolitions we do end up on a tax lien. We just did one at Mandeville, ended up on the tax lien. All of that cost, though, it's another big change we made. Actually, the council has a piece of legislation right now that they're going to be hearing soon. Do you remember a couple of years ago how we did the vacant property registry thing? Anyone? No. Okay. All right. So one of the issues with the vacant property registry, I couldn't really enforce it when I came as mayor, nor could the prior mayor, because it was voluntary. So if you had a vacant property, you had to sign up, say, hey, my property's vacant, you charge me more per year. No one signed up. So, yeah. So it took us about a year of going back and forth on different constitutionality and all New York State laws and all that. But we actually have a pretty good version right now. They now the budget's over. They're going to work with us on it. It's going to be a derelict and vacant property registry. And if you're going to get on that registry, it's going to be from us citing you codes violations. So if you have a certain amount of codes violations within 1 year, you're automatically on it. If your property is not vacant, you're on the derelict property registry. You get that checkbox. If your property is vacant, and derelict, you get, both check boxes. The way it's going to work is if you're on that registry, similar to the changes we made for the abatements, where we started putting all of those costs on the tax liens after they did not pay a bill, which helped us a lot because that's how CarCraft got cleaned up. I'll explain CarCraft in a moment. It's on Risking Street. But so basically the way it's going to work now is if you have a certain amount of violations, you get on the registry. There's going to be a fee schedule. If you're on the registry and your property is non-compliant, and you have not repaired those codes violations, you're going to have a higher fee per year that will go on your taxes. If you fix that property and it's still vacant, the fee will be very nominal, say $250 a year, for example, if you want that big property. But then that's going to fund the fact that we have to go there more frequently. It'll be on the registry, and absolutely quarterly, but more often we will be checking on those properties. That's what that fee is going to be for. It's now. And if the property is no longer vacant, you're not on the registry. But that's going to be the way we can actually actively deal with that. But that legislation itself, if passed, all of that money now will go into the taxes. If any of that happens, it'll give me the ability to say, okay, we gave you 2 warnings. Why is there still a bunch of trash in the backyard spilling over your neighbor's yard? Now, under that registry, we'll actually, because you're on that registry, just be able to go clean it up. If you won't clean it up yourself, then we just put it on your taxes. It really incentivizes property owners. So CarCraft, you're familiar with the Risking Street. So right after Fahey Kitchens, there was a building, a 1-story block building, had a tractor trailer next to it. And if you're familiar with the property, there's been tents and vagrants and unhoused and just transients. The whole thing has been a mess. There's been garbage all over it, broken cars, dump truck, all kinds of crazy stuff. No one could ever track the guy down because he lived in California. Respectfully, when I got in as mayor, I met with Marcus Phillips and I went, what are you going to do? He's like, I don't know, because no one will serve this guy a warrant, go get him and extradite him for a codes violation. He lives in California. So similar to what we did with the Bowers building next to Fort Schuyler Club, where we boarded it up and painted it black, we took a risk. I said, look, let's go through all the appropriate court cases, cite them, take them to city court, go to Supreme Court, all the different steps. Once we've run out, let's go and quote out what it's going to cost to clean this up. So CarCraft, when we went down with the DPW commissioner and checked all the tipping fees and assessed everything that was there, it was going to cost us about $19,000 to clean up. So we sent the guy in California a letter saying, if this is not cleaned up in 2 weeks, we're just going to do it ourselves, and there's going to be a $19,000 bill coming to you. If you don't pay the bill, it's going to go on your taxes. Within 2 weeks, he was here. Property is now cleaned up, and there's a for sale sign in front of it. So we're hoping that's the same type of effect this registry will have.
I heard not too long ago, after the ski area opened up, that we're the one of 3 cities in the United States that has a skiing area within city limits. With that in mind, we also have a zoo. We also have a golf course. And in New York State, we're the 3rd largest city in the state with parks. Take that all into consideration and put it under one umbrella. There's probably not a city in the United States that has everything that this city has. With that being said, with all the parks that we have, and what the city really needs is to start getting more taxable property in the city, more homes for people to buy. Why, with all these parks that we have, why can't we take some of these parks? Now you're just talking about going into West Utica and refurbishing 3 parks. Maybe refurbish 2 and use one of them for a development to build single-family homes. Paul will tell you right up here behind Jefferson School, there used to be an area up there that I think the school owns.
I actually just talked to Gaetano about building houses. You're talking about, yeah, it's just below Deerfield. Yeah, yeah. So do you want? Because I have an answer for this. Do you want me to do anything else, or I'm gonna riff on it? All right. So first off, everything you mentioned is what goes in our business development decks for each of the neighborhoods, whether it's North Utica, South Utica, Varick Street, Uptown District, Bleecker Street, so Oneida Square even. So one of the things I had the Urban and Economic Development Department do is do land assessments, district assessments, residential assessments across the board. The way we built the New York Forward application was out of our business development deck that we're working with banks, developers, and everyone to just try and bring businesses. Every amenity you just talked about is not something we want to lose. I'm not for adding new parks because then it's more stuff we have to maintain, it's more cost. However, to counter your point about maybe using Roscoe Conkling or all these other parks and decommissioning them for housing, I'm going to reference the 17 acres that we've been ignoring in North Genesee Street. I'm going to reference, there's a giant swath of land that actually we just met with the landowners about. It's a partner of who owns the Braywater Farm property. And he was like, what's that? Right. So long story short, regardless of that, he posed the question. He's like, we got all this land on Lee Boulevard. What's stopping a housing developer from developing houses? Same thing above Cinderella Park. We have land there. So all these spots is another thing that I had Urban and Economic Development assess. We did a land assessment. We've been saying we're landlocked for all these years. And it's bad enough to say it internally to the people of Utica. We're landlocked, we can't build anything. We're landlocked, we can't add to the tax base. But to tell that to the larger development community that exists outside Utica, New York, and New York State, that's crazy, right? You're basically saying, don't come here. We're flipping that on its head. We have assessed all of the empty land, whether we own it or people own it or LLCs own it, and we're putting it in business development tax. That's why we had Benaccio, the developer that has done so much in Rome. We're bringing them to Utica now, saying, hey, if you want to break into a new market and you'd like to build those single-story townhouses for people who want to sell their house but still live in Utica and still own because you don't want to rent, but you don't want to mow a lawn anymore, you could do that. If you want to build 1,600 to 2,000 square foot homes and sell them to young couples that want their kid to go to Jefferson but can't find the house exactly where they want. So we're actually looking at doing all that. I personally think that before we go and start selling off what I would consider gems in the city, we need to take a hard look at the fact that there's a lot of land developed. Even in my own neighborhood. If you look at the bird's eye view in the Ridgewood market area, the Ridgewood development, above the Southgate Academy property, where those condos are, there's a giant forest in the middle of that neighborhood. It's owned by the Gaetano family, and they're interested in subdividing it, selling it to people who want to build houses. So there's land all over the place. We just haven't been telling people about it. Next question. All right, so I'll stand up. Now that I'm going, I'll just stay until like 2 in the morning. I'm trying to think if there's anything in particular. I do want to talk about the paving for a bit, just to talk about how we're getting into this. We are going to be bidding that out. So the list that came out is the list that's going to go to bid. Now, everyone wanted to think that due to the current conflict in the Middle East, oil is going to stay high, but I don't think it tracks that. Like this morning, it was $30 a barrel again. Now it's back up. So that's fluctuating. So I don't anticipate that really killing things much. But we're trying to bid early. The Common Council did pass this year a larger bond anticipation note. What that's going to allow us to do is go out to bid now on that list. And my hopes are maybe we'll come a little under. When you bid early, and you can bid early enough, sometimes you shave, say, 200,000-300,000 off that cost, and then maybe we can add a few streets. So there's 2 council people in here. I do want to thank them for considering that and doing it. Did wish it happened a month ago, but it's still way earlier than normal. We usually go out to bid around June, and we're actually putting that out in the next few weeks here. So that'll be good. That list is only mill and fill. That list does not include repairs. That list does not include that new micro paving we did. That list does not include any of the infrastructure work. So West Utica, for example, had some questions earlier. There's not a lot going on in West Utica. Part of that is there's going to be a big CSO project, the stormwater separation projects. A lot of that's taking place in West Utica. So over the next 4 years, starting this year, a lot of those roads are all getting torn up. We're not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on roads that are getting torn up. And they'll be restored when the work's done, too. So we're putting that money elsewhere. So we're still going to do, I don't know that we have a full reconstruction. We've got Webster Ave, and a portion of that is similar to Shaw Street, is a full reconstruction. But we're definitely going to have all those different stages again as part of the paving program. So that's just the mill and fill list. So if your road has some serious damage on it, make sure you work with those people so that we know. I mean, we know we're damage everywhere, but just because your road's not fully getting corner to corner paved doesn't mean we can't fix problems where we reach. So last year was the first year in, I think, 15 years we had more than one bid. Last year it did go to the new bidder, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. What was nice is, and we went nuts like broadcasting the bid to every company possible. I wanted to see at least a year where we had 2 bidders, and it just worked out that way that they were the low bid. Someone new did the work. Because now we can't walk around saying it's rigged and it's always going to the same person. It is really a factor in the fact that locally there's only a few companies that do it. And if you follow paving and mechanical companies, they're all merging. So the ones that are bidding sometimes are getting bottled up into one anyways. Anything else?
Gotten the whole entire thing, like the cafeteria. Keep the cafeteria, have that people living there to eat there, and just having all apartments in there.
So that is not out of the question. So the way that process worked is the hospital, FHS, worked with the city to do a generic seeker process and a generic EIS, environmental impact statement. And they worked with the community to see what would you want here. Community obviously had different stages of residential development. That's what's been pre-approved by those processes. So if a developer does come in, they have the funds, and they can do one or any combination of those plans that were approved under the seeker process. They won't have to go through that year to 2 year process again. If, say, an elder care facility does come in and wants to purchase that from UHS and repurpose it for that, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. It would still fit within the zoning. The difference is they would have to do a little bit more work now and go through the planning process from scratch. They'd have to go through seeker, and they'd have to go through the EIS. But it doesn't mean it can't happen. And frankly, 2 weeks ago, we had a developer come in that's kind of a developer contractor, and they're going to be bringing construction estimators in because I have a feeling it's not what you mentioned, but it almost felt like they were looking at more of a Presswick Glen type of thing going on there. But, as long as it's mainly residential, I think it'll work for any purpose. Yes, what's up?
Speaking of St. Elizabeth Hospital, they also own a few homes right behind it.
Quite a few, actually.
Are there people living in those homes?
Yes, nursing students and staff.
All right, so they own those homes. The city's got the hospital on the tax rolls now, which they're not paying taxes. But those homes, if they're not paying taxes on those, couldn't the city file a nuisance abatement, have the people evicted? The city could sell the houses and put that money into their.
You mean because they're not paying taxes?
Huh?
Because they're not paying taxes?
Not paying taxes.
If they're not paying taxes, that's because they filed the necessary and appropriate state paperwork to be taxable. We're the arbiter of that, and it's a pretty rigorous process. We don't just decide. There's a lot of different, it's a very regimented situation. We are meeting with them about the houses, actually, because if they're renting the houses for profit, they are taxable. If they have nursing students in there, similar to from the School of Nursing, and it's part of the School of Nursing, and it's part of that function, then they aren't paying taxes. And that is the reality. I mean, they actually start from Genesee Street. They loop around. So there's quite a few. But again, I kind of feel like they're going to start selling them off once the use starts dying down, because they don't want to maintain them. It costs money. Yeah, of course. Yeah, they taxable. Yeah, because people will buy them. Yeah. Anything else? All right, let's go.
Well, you mentioned about the Leone, they're starting the bridge replacements here in the fall. So I have New York State Department of Transportation Public Information Officer has in hand. And
I think Nick's coming too, right? Yeah.
July.
Yes. Good. That's very. I was aware of that. Also on Leland Ave, I want to mention something. I suggested that we kind of leave it be while it is a detour, because why would we spend money paving it? Because then it's going to get beat up. Every tractor trailer on the planet, right? But the reality is, the Leland Ave Bridge does have some required maintenance that we have to do, and we're concerned for the safety of the bridge once it comes to detour. So that's also. So it was actually going to be a giant battery storage facility, because Herkimer owns 95% of it. Utica, New York only has that piece that's the frontage on the Cadby side. It's a very narrow piece of land. If you look at like any type of Google Maps, you can see where the property line is. But that's nothing right now. Nothing right now. Because that all fell through. That was Herkimer working on that. It is. But again, that's another one of those sites that we've been looking at for brownfield development.
And years ago, that was a really nice little mall.
I bought Nike Airs high tops at Klein's there when I was in like fourth grade, I think. Yeah. Still remember that place. It was pretty wild. No, but overall, the budget, if anyone has any questions at any point, no matter how esoteric or detail-oriented, you can always reach out to mayor@cityofutica.com, call the office, and we're happy to walk you through it. A lot of it is it's only complicated because there's a million lines, right? But if you have a question about a line, it's no different than a household budget. You either have the money or you don't. If you're running short on cash, sometimes you're using money in your bank account, and when your bank account starts draining, you want to create a situation where it stops going down, you can start building it back up again. That's kind of where we are. So we're just handling things with kid gloves and making sure, unless we really need to do it, that money can stay in the fund balance, because we don't want to create a situation where the state could come in with a control board. We don't want to create a situation where we don't have the ability to dip into that fund balance to maintain our level of services. This year, with the additional $3.8 million in temporary municipal assistance, I am ecstatic that we can kind of hold the line. Even though it's zero, it's not going up. we're still considering that tax relief because the city expenses did go up just under $2 million this year. And we have the contracts coming. So I did have that on my iPad just to go into a little bit about what Joe's talking about, just to explain kind of what we deal with. We talk about healthcare, talk about state retirement, et cetera. The state retirements I do want to talk about. The vast majority of the city employees are public safety, worth every penny, right? But the reality is they're 20-year retirements. Because they're 20-year retirements, the state requires us to pay into the state retirement system. Us meaning the city of Utica. Unless you're tier 6, which we don't have that many tier 6 yet, we have to pay 41% of the income of whatever individual is on the city payroll for police and fire for a 20-year retiree. 41%. So if that person makes $100,000 a year, the city has to come up with $41,000 to give it to the state every single year. A lot of people don't think about that with budgeting. Then there's Social Security. It's another 7.65%. That's from the municipal side. So now we're up to 48.65% of that person. So now a $100,000 employee is now $148,000. That's not even counting any of the fringe benefits like healthcare and all the other stuff like vacation and personal time off. So when you really get into it, that's a lot of the stuff. Like you wouldn't see that just kind of flip through the budget. But that's where a lot of the money goes, and that is a lot of why. While it seems like a circle of money, that AIM funding that we talked about, temporary municipal assistance, it hasn't been adjusted permanently since 2011. In 2011, it was $16.1 million to the city. At that time, the state budget was $135 billion. Okay. The state budget now is over $260 billion. I think they're proposing, what, 290? I've had my head buried in her budget. So point being, if the AIM funding, which is revenue, it's our money, right? We pay income tax, we pay state sales tax, and then all the other fees we pay to the state. That goes to all of them. And it comes back in the form of AIM. It's called Aid and Assistance for Municipalities. It's genuinely the unrestricted revenue sharing that is the portion of our income tax and sales tax and other fees that go to Albany comes back to Utica. Last time it was permanently adjusted, 2011, $16.1 million. If you track it with the state budget, that same payment to the city right now would be just above $30 million. Just above $30 million. If the city was getting, with the temporary, we're getting about 22. But if the city was getting $8 million more, and that revenue sharing was indexed to the state revenues going up equivalently, all the state, all the municipalities, that would really help us when our income costs go up. Because the state's not asking for, quote, more money, but if we have to do a 3% raise for police and fire, right, which is reasonable, now all of a sudden we have to pay 3% more on that 41% too, right? So it compounds. So that's why, the council supported me by resolution on all the fighting we were doing in Albany to get that increase. We're going to still try to do that. That's really our biggest thing. Myself and all the mayors across the state have been working on is trying to get that adjusted. Because if that could be adjusted, we'd be more stable. The reason I mention it is right now we just settled the CSEA contract. Okay. Now, they received some substantial raises, dollar amount wise. But the problem was that there was a lot of CSEA employees still making $14, making their full-time job after working for 5 years, and they're the ones picking up the garbage for us, making $33,000 a year. Okay, so their contract just passed, and now they are, in my opinion, making a living wage. But it's going to cost the city $600,000 more a year. We should be doing that because we need people to pick up our garbage, salt the roads, and all that. Right? It has to happen. Similar, Teamsters, their contract is settled. They're a very small group, so that only cost the city, I think, $200,000 more this year, right? And they received very modest raises, and they were happy with it, okay? Because they were doing okay, and they were reasonable to deal with. Police and fire, they also are most likely going to receive modest raises. However, when you look at the mass amount of payroll they have, because there's 165 positions, we have about 150, 152 filled in police. We have 132 fire positions. I think we have about 127, something like that, filled right now. Those payrolls, just the raw salaries, are in 20 million. You know, so when you start adding those up, state retirement and everything, if those contracts close this year, and we settle them even at 2.5% raises, we'll need about 1.8 to 2 million more dollars in our budget right now than we don't have. So, you know, you project that out 4 or 5 years. Now you're looking at, by 2029, at really modest raises of, say, 2.5%, which is typically below inflation, right, for our public service employees, our public safety employees. We're going to need about $6 million more dollars by 2029. So that is why I'm out there in Albany. It's giving me some support by resolution, making those arguments for me with legislation, and we're advocating for the name to be adjusted because having to look to property tax to fill those gaps is almost impossible. I stood here for 2 years in a row under a lot of fire for having to deal with what I dealt with, and I appreciate all the anger and the angst. I was one of the houses paying the same taxes. That's why this year, even though expenses went up, we got that extra 3.8. We really thought it was prudent to do the 0, just to give everyone a break. Even though our expenses are still going up, we can weather it this year because we're treading water. We're doing all right. So hopefully we can keep that moving. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we're done.
Thank you all for staying as well.
Thank you.